District attorneys across Oregon looking at ways to reduce the prison population. One suggestion, reduce the mandatory sentencing for low-level drug crimes.
It's a change that could have an impact on your town. News 10's Krystle Henderson is here with more. Krystle?
The state wants to cut costs. The governor's proposal to remove mandatory prison sentences for crimes such as sex abuse and robbery. Prosecutors say they'd rather see minor crimes skip out on the tougher sentences. Kimberly Stack loves coloring, not doing crime. She says her sentencing for having some weed on her is a little harsh.
I'm being charged with a small amount of marijuana and charged a huge, ginormous fine.
Getting caught with drugs in some cases leads to prison, but that could change. Prosecutors are talking about reducing sentences for some drug crimes to save money and space in the prison for criminals who they say should really be behind bars.
The recent announcement was basically saying, we understand that we have limited resources, that we've got to make some choices here, and sometimes they're tough choices.
This, they say, is the lesser of two evils. The governor originally suggested lessening mandatory sentences for Measure 11 crimes, which include sex abuse, assault, and robbery. District attorneys said that was going too far, and they had a better idea.
With some of these compromises, we think we can avoid building a new prison. We can, use our resources most effectively and not have to have drastic changes.
Officers agree with the new compromise.
And the bottom line is that you're trying to be reasonable in how you approach prison beds, state costs, and what the impact is going to be to local communities. It's going to be much more difficult for us to deal with people convicted of second-degree robbery on a community level than it is someone on a marijuana charge.
Officers say their job won't change. They'll continue to bust criminals for drugs, the sentencing in the judge's hands. Stack says the new proposal makes sense to her. She says the crime doesn't add up to the time.
They're wasting the court's valuable time and a lot of money.
Oregon district attorneys also recommend reducing sentences for felony cases of driving while suspended. They also suggest the prisons lower the cost of housing inmates and use that money to fund programs which keep inmates from reoffending and ending up back in prison. Covering your news, Krystle Henderson, News 10.
Trish has more from the Social Media Center on your reaction to this proposal.
This story is getting a lot of reaction on our Facebook page. Within minutes of posting it, more than a dozen people had already weighed in. Now, the initial response is overwhelmingly in favor of reducing sentences for crimes involving marijuana. For instance, Nicole supports the idea, saying with pot, the only thing you get is the munchies and want a nap. Michelle agrees. Her argument, free up the justice system for other types of offenders. Tanya's concerned about pot use in general. She says there isn't enough research on long-term effects for anyone to say it's 100% safe. The conversation relating to this story has grown throughout the day, and we want to know what you think. All you have to do is like News 10 on Facebook and join in on that conversation.